Alright, hi. It's been a while. There's been a lot of stuff going on in my life for the past months on essentially all planes of my existence, and I will be discussing most of it. But for today, I thought I'd address what has been probably the most difficult to come to terms with, and that is the fact that I am currently living at my parents' place. Now, if you asked teenage me where I thought I would be at 25, I would have probably said that I'd be owning my own apartment at this point. I'd probably finish my master's degree. I'd have a job that I was proud of that earned a lot of money. And turns out none of this is the case. It was never the plan to be where I'm at, but here we are, and I'm sure I'm not the only 20-something with the same predicament. So let's talk about it, shall we? I think that on a practical and physical level, moving in with your parents can be funny. Like, obviously, depending on the space available at a home, your relationship with your parents, and a multitude of other practical factors, the actual act of living with them isn't necessarily going to be an insufferable existence or anything like this. In my case, I'm extremely lucky to be able to have my own space at their place, so I don't even have to see them unless I wish to. But I'm just saying this to say that this is not what I'm going to talk about today, like the practicalities of living at home. Like, obviously, do your dishes, don't revert to being a child, and all this basic shit. But I think what I'd like to talk about, and what has bothered me the most about moving here, is the shame of not being as independent as I thought I should have been at 25. And I've also realized that this shame is dumb for multiple reasons. Probably the most tangible and real reason why it's not something anyone should feel bad about is due to the state of the economy. Let's just get that out of the fucking way, shall we? Little 16-year-old me who imagined my own financial independence at 25 did this based on what I'd been told by our parents' generation. Specifically, I'd been told that this would be possible. But as we can see in a report that was conducted by the National Housing Federation, first-time buyers are now advised that they need to be saving £2,300 a month to have a chance of making a down payment on a place in London within the next 4 years. And I don't know about you, but saving £2,300 a month is not something that's doable for me. This is also what I've seen reflected in my life, though. Like, I know people who earn pretty well, who've been working for quite an amount of years. Heck, I'm someone who earns pretty well, who has been working for a little bit. However, I don't know a single soul who would be able to afford an apartment in a capital city in Scandinavia, where I live, without significant help from their family. And these, like Scandinavia, are even countries where there is a lot of like social help, and they want you almost to be able to afford a home, but it's still not something that's affordable unless you get help for your down payment, which is ridiculous. 16-year-old me also could not predict, obviously, that there would be a pandemic, a global pandemic, that would naturally eat into our savings even further and destabilize the economy. Rent, as well, has been on a ridiculous high lately, so home ownership feels quite unattainable for me, and I'm sure a bunch of other people as well. I just think that we keep feeling ashamed that we haven't achieved what our parents could at the same age as us. And that's just a ridiculous standard to hold ourselves to, because we don't at all have the same jumping off points. Older generations will have you believe that the generational wealth gap that we are experiencing is due to us buying too many coffees at coffee shops, but it's not. It's a systemic issue, and it's not something that is easily solved by individual action. However, if there was any individual action that we could take to make our financial situation a little better, it would be avoiding paying rent, let's be real, which is what I'm currently doing. And I don't think that anyone should be feeling very bad or ashamed for making economically savvy decisions. And besides the practicalities, there's still some shame looming, right? Like, we can't deny that we feel like we should be on our own. We should be completely independent, and this is probably because we've been raised to be very individualistic. In individualistic countries such as the Americas, most of Europe, or at least Western Europe, South Africa, etc., Australia, New Zealand, people are considered good if they're strong, self-reliant, assertive, and independent. And this is in contrast with collectivist cultures where characteristics like being self-sacrificing, dependable, generous, and helpful to others are of greater importance. Now, obviously, there are a lot of benefits to people being strong, self-reliant, and independent, but I also have to wonder if we might have taken this a bit far. The fact that it's shameful in our culture to live at home reads as a little sad to me. Why is relying on or just being in close proximity to your family something that's bad? Why is admitting that we need help from our community automatically frowned upon? I remember sometimes when I imagined myself owning my own apartment that it did feel quite lonely. The grind set is, after all, a lonely one. Let's be real. Like, it leaves extremely little time to do much else than focus on your achievement. And to be able to even achieve your achievements, you need to sort of see most people as competition. It leaves little time for you to see friends. It leaves even less time for you to see your family. You might achieve things. You might get promotions at work, sure. But you might even buy a nice place. But for what? What is the point of having money and things if you're lonely at the end of the day, you know? I've talked about this a lot before, like loneliness, but I don't think we're going to be feeling any less lonely anytime soon with both experiencing late stage capitalism and the digitalization of social interactions. And maybe that's why when I watch movies like fucking Coco, I get super excited about the idea of multi-generational homes. They seem wonderful and necessary and like a good solution for this fucking impending loneliness that I feel like most of our generation is experiencing. And I want to preface as well that I don't in any way have what, you could call a solid relationship with a lot of my family. I'm not one of those people whose best friends are their parents or anything like that, far from it. But despite that, I can still also recognize that the time that I do have with my parents is very limited. Once I will buy my own place, maybe get married one day, and maybe have kids one day, this will take up my entire life. So I think it's frankly a little sad to be ashamed about living at home when you're 20-something. I say enjoy your parents while they're still here, save some money, and release yourself from needing to be a part of a hyper-individualistic system just because.